Welcome, one and all, to Pacific414 episode review. I'm your host, Mike, and joining me this evening is the Admiral, or should I say, Sensei, Nerdporeal Lifeform.
Hello, everybody. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. Thank you for accepting the invitation. So, tonight, as you can see, we are going to be discussing our reaction to Season 4 of Cobra Kai and what we thought of the whole overall season, where we think next season might go, and who knows? We may even talk about other topics too. The sky's the limit.
Cool.
So, Brian, I'm going to go ahead and ask you, since you've just finished watching Season 4 for the first time, your first impressions of the season.
Oh, this season was a big improvement to Season 3. I was not happy when they wrote out Aisha, the one girl who was originally Cobra Kai. You know, her father, I think, was a football player, I don't remember. But she had the glasses. She was kind of like overweight and had the glasses. I liked her. I wanted to see her, grow more in the show. So when they did that, when they got rid of her, and they also got rid of Stingray, I thought Stingray was hilarious in Season 2.
Yeah, it was.
They wrote out both those characters, and that pissed me off. And then after that, they just I felt Robbie got the short end of the stick last season. You barely see him, and he basically in this season, this season that Dimitri the nerd basically says what I've been saying the whole time, that Robbie turned to the dark side last season. By Cobra, Kreese was basically the emperor, the manipulator, and Robbie was basically Anakin. So I was very curious where this season would go, and I was really happy to see what I saw. So this was like Season 1. Like, I personally think Season 1 was my favorite season, but this is tied with Season 1 now as my favorite season.
And I agree with you at that point, because with Season 1, I didn't watch it when it first came out on YouTube. I was one of those people that went, oh, they're coming out with another reboot. And having just seen Star Trek Discovery, I wasn't willing to jump into that water.
Oh, same here. I was curious about it because, like Star Wars, Back to the Future, Karate Kid was one of those movies that my parents, we owned Part 2 on VHS. It was one of those movies that my mom and dad really loved, and so I grew up watching those. I remember I was really little, but I saw Part 3 in the theater. Believe it or not, I was like 4. I think I was 4 years old at the time. But yeah, so I have a history with this. So like Mr. Miyagi is like one of my all-time favorite characters. He's probably the best mentor character of all time. I mean, there might be others back then that might be up there like Obi-Wan and stuff, but I watched Season 1. They're like 25 to 30 minute episodes, so they were relatively short. And every time an episode ended, I wanted to keep watching. And in like literally a night, I watched the entire first season. And ever since then, I've been a big fan of Cobra Kai. And I felt the same way watching Season 4. I can't wait for the next season.
And the thing is, it was my sister who was telling me about Cobra Kai, and like I said, having just seen Star Trek Discovery, I wasn't ready to dip my feet into that water. So last year, before Season 3 started, I decided, okay, I'm going to go ahead and binge this series before Season 3 starts. And from episode 1, I was hooked. I was hooked because I liked how it pays respect to what came before, how it still includes Pat Morita, Mr. Miyagi, by using various clips from Karate Kid Part 2, and Karate Kid Part 3 when it's relevant to the story that's going on in that episode. And the fact that you have Johnny starting off as your protagonist in this series. And when it comes to Johnny, he's become one of my favorite characters of this series.
Yeah, he is my I consider him the main protagonist of Cobra Kai, because it's even though Daniel-san is the hero of Karate Kid and we've seen his story, this is basically and I've said this in my video, this is a redemption arc. This is the beginning of a redemption story for Johnny. And I'm all in. Mm-hmm. I'm all in, hook, line, sinker, and I don't even fish.
And before we get too far ahead, I do want to say hello to those in the chat. I want to say hello to Alan Copeland.
Hey, Alan.
To you, sir. I want to say hello to Star Wars Theology. Hello,
What's up, Felix?
And I also want to say hello to Woolis. Welcome.
What's up, Woolis?
So, when you're watching episode 1 of this season, what were you think they were going to go to start off the season?
I'm not sure. So season 4 so the last season ended with they get challenged. There's like a 3-way fight between, well, not a 3-way fight. It's basically 2 versus 1. Be it Daniel, Johnny versus Kreese, and then they settle it by once again repeating the Karate Kid saying, "Oh, we'll settle this with the All Valley tournament." So I figured, and then of course it ends with them, Johnny and Daniel's son, working together to train them and stuff. I actually did not think much of it. I thought maybe perhaps they'll work together for a bit, but they're gonna eventually break off because of their history. I mean, it's kind of inevitable, and they kind of do, but they both, what I love, my favorite, I don't know if this was episode 1, this might have been episode 3, but it was really cool seeing Johnny doing the Miyagi-Do training, like the wax on, the wax off.
Yes, it was.
I love seeing that. I don't know why, but yeah, anything that involves Mr. Miyagi, I love the Mr. Miyagi theme. It's one of my favorites. I used it in my video. But yeah, I love seeing that. I love seeing them learning from each other. And yeah.
And that's the thing, when Johnny was learning Miyagi-Do and Daniel was having him do that painting lesson, you could tell Johnny wasn't having any part of it. And even though Daniel was trying to tell him why he's doing this, all Johnny wanted to do was do it the easy way, do it the fast way. And then Daniel shows him why he wants to train him in Miyagi-Do, and that's by taking the beer bottle that Johnny's holding and actually chopping it in half. I'm watching that going, okay, Daniel's serious.
Like it's like the ice in part 2. And of course, Johnny had nothing to do with that. So it was cool seeing him it was cool seeing that. I loved that whole ice part in part 2 was epic.
And that's the whole thing about this season, is that they're each teaching the other the skills that they know.
Yes. And it seemed, and it pays off in the tournament. I mean, even though Sam loses the fight against Tori, because I knew Tori was going to win. They're setting her up. They're even setting Tori up for a redemption arc. And I like that too. But Sam was learning from both her father and Johnny, and I thought it was pretty cool seeing them both root for her at the same time. I don't know what it is, but seeing them work together is like, because you expect feud after feud after feud for all the history. It pays off every time they work together.
It does. It certainly does. And the fact that, and I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I already did flash that there are going to be spoilers. The fact that when Sam's in the tournament against Tori, and she looks at Daniel and then she looks at Johnny, and they both approve. That fusion of the two styles, that was beautiful.
I agree. I totally agree. It was I think the most important thing that he said that Daniel told. I don't know if it was her. It might have been her, or it was him telling Johnny. Or actually, it might have been him telling Johnny. Was that he's comparing Mr. Miyagi? I think it was in part 3. Tells him like, you develop martial arts your own way. You have strong roots, but where it branches out, it's on you mainly. So I thought that was a very important thing to say. And I mean, once again, that's why I think Mr. Miyagi is one of the greatest, mentor, mystical. I'll even go as far as to say mystical mentor. Like I loved season 1. Like if you've seen, I mean, everyone's seen Karate Kid. Daniel gets injured, I think, in the shoulder. Or was it the shoulder? He gets injured in the shoulder, and then Mr. Miyagi rubs his hands. You can't see me, but I'm rubbing my hands right now. And then hits the right pressure points and stuff. And then season 1, Daniel's about to do the same thing. He's like, medic, we need a medic, because I don't know what this is and stuff. So it's basically saying that, like, even though like Daniel's the mentor, he's not Mr. Miyagi. And that's the one thing that's the other thing I really love about this show, is that you can't replace Mr. Miyagi, but you can still be an effective mentor of your own, your own way.
Yeah, you can still pass on Mr. Miyagi's teaching from one generation to the next generation.
And this is what a lot of people wanted to see Luke Skywalker do with the new generation of Jedi. And that got robbed because reasons.
You can say it. Go ahead and say it.
Reasons because of the horrible setup that J.J. Abrams decided to do. Ooh, let's make Luke Skywalker gone. Let's make him vanish. Let's make him a myth, even though he's still alive. Let's make him a myth. And then another guy named Ryan came in. It's like, let's make him a failure. Let's make him give up. I'm going to take the easy way, writing his arc, and just make him give up. And then let's give a poorly paid off redemption at the end, where he basically trolls everybody into thinking he was actually, present. And then he dies alone. And then you see him a few minutes as a Force ghost in Rise of Skywalker, saying, "Oh, this weapon should be treated better." And then he talks about himself being beaten by Leia in the lightsaber duel and stuff. And great arc, great arc. I so want to watch more Star Wars now. I'm so interested in the future of Luke Skywalker's Jedi Order. Oh wait, he didn't have one. It got destroyed. Rey's Jedi Order. Thank you.
And
I don't want to go any further on this.
It's all right, brother. You can say whatever you need to say.
That's why I'm not interested in watching any more Disney Star Wars. And that includes Book of Fennec Shand. I don't care what anybody calls it. It's called the Book of Fennec Shand.
Well, I've already given my quick take on that. It's 3 out of 5. And it's not bad. It's not great. It's only good.
Season the first book. Oh, I haven't watched it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I figure it's gonna be generic, just like The Mandalorian.
It's middle of the road. It's like, okay,
there might be a payoff at the end. There might be dangling keys. Come on, keep watching, keep following the keys, and you get something. But we promise more next season. Promise. There'll be a big epic battle. There'll be great characters next season. You wait. And if you think I'm lying, I am.
See, the thing is, that's where Disney's at. Disney tells us to wait for great characters. Cobra Kai, from season 1 all the way up to season 4, has given us great characters.
They deliver. Yeah, they deliver, and they've earned my patronage. I mean, that's how I feel. I am not entitled to give anything a chance. I mean, if it's up to them to interest me, and you can't. This whole dangling keys, saying, "Oh, we're bringing back classic characters and stuff." That doesn't work anymore. And what are you going to do with those classic characters? You're going to make them look stupid? You've already been doing that. I don't expect you unless you have a change in vision. I don't see any particular change. And if people want to keep eating it up, it's fine. Not I'm not saying that. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people like Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett. I'm not saying enjoy what you like. I don't want to take that away from anybody.
No, enjoy what you enjoy, but for me, it takes up to 3 episodes before I like a show. It's a rarity, and Cobra Kai fits in that rarity factor, that rarity column, where I'm actually watching the show on episode 1 and going, "All right, I'm hooked."
Yeah, because it feels like the story moves with each scene. Each scene is important. Whereas you watch, other shows and like they just talk about like even later Game of Thrones, there were scenes where they talk about nothing just to fill the time. Like especially with Tyrion in season 6, like his stuff was mostly just to waste time, talking about dirty jokes and stuff. I'm just like, talk about what's going on in the rest of the world. Do something like that. That's how the books did it. Talk about stuff that's interesting to the viewer. I don't care I don't care what their hobbies are. That has nothing to do with the story.
Keep it relevant to the story. It's like I've said before, with the flashbacks showing Pat Morita as Mr. Miyagi from the 3 Karate Kid movies. It's relevant to the story that's going on. They don't just throw it in there for the sake of throwing it in there.
Exactly.
Even in this season, they show a clip. I think it's from Karate Kid 2 or Karate Kid 3. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've watched the 2 of them. But there's the scene where Mr. Miyagi says, "One day, you're going to take these teachings and you're going to make them your own."
Yeah, part 3.
It's crucial to what's happening in the story in this season.
He compares that to the tree, to the bonsai tree, because the tree could grow in any direction. Like it has to have the same roots. He says it has to have the same strong roots. So, and like he even says, and what's funny is the show even addresses this. The show says, "I want to protect." Like Daniel says, "I want to protect Mr. Miyagi's legacy." When him and Johnny are in a disagreement, I think this is at the end of the season. And yeah, I feel that way about a lot of franchise. I feel like a lot of people don't care about the legacy that they're leaving me. I mean, the content that's being made today is not going to have a good legacy. Like it's going to be forgotten. Like the majority of things in this world generally are. They're generally forgotten. So, but these things, karate stuff that came out in the 80s, stuff that Gen Xers and older millennials like myself remember. I mean, this is the stuff that's relevant. That's what's, making money. Anything nowadays is trying to appeal to us and is not appealing to the younger people. I mean, very, very little, actually. And Redler Media said this perfectly in their Ghostbusters review. There's nothing iconic. There's very little that's iconic anymore. That comes out today. So
that's very true. And with the Karate Kid trilogy, and yes, I'm calling it a trilogy because I can't even get through the next Karate Kid. I have tried multiple times to get through that movie, and I can't.
I thought it was okay. I mean, it's not the first 3, but it was still entertaining. I mean, it was weird. It was different with Hilary Swank. I have a question. Do you think they'll ever bring them back? Anyone from that movie?
Why not?
That would be an interesting thing. Get Hilary Swank. Get Michael Ironside.
Well, if Michael Ironside shows up, things are getting even more serious than they already have been.
See you at the party, Richter. That's Michael. That's every time I think Michael Ironside, his best role, in my opinion, Richter from Total Recall.
Yes. I mean, one of my favorite roles of his is actually in Top Gun, where he's one of the flight instructors. And, again, like I said, Michael Ironside shows up on screen, whether it's in a movie or in a TV show, and you're going, okay, shit's about to get real.
Yeah, I agree. Top Gun. Okay, it was him and Mr. Strickland was the commander, wasn't he? James Stolpen was the commander, I think, in that movie.
Yes.
And then Tom Skerritt. Who was Tom Skerritt? He was a flight. He was like an instructor, right? I forget.
Yes, he was. Well, one of these days we'll have to have a watch party of Top Gun.
Oh yeah, I wonder if that movie's ever gonna, that new 2020, that movie that was supposed to come out 2 years ago, is ever gonna come out. That new Top
Who
Gun,
knows at this rate?
Maverick. And they talk about Top Gun in this. I don't know if it was this. Yeah, it was this season. They talk about Top Gun.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, who calls themselves like? I think Johnny says, who calls themselves Maverick? That's lame. He's like, who is it? It was. He's like, oh, Iceman's where it's all at. He's a Val Kilmer fan.
And the thing is, at one point, and yes, I am jumping ahead a little bit here, but at one point in the season, when Miguel comes back from the prom after the party, and there's a fight between Miguel and Robbie, Sam and Tori, Miguel walks into Johnny's apartment. He's laying on the floor, piss ass drunk, beer bottles all over the place. He helps basically carry Johnny back into his bedroom, and the song that Johnny's singing is Playing with the Boys from Top Gun, the volleyball scene.
Oh yeah, that's right. Kenny Loggins.
I didn't catch it the first time. I caught it.
I didn't catch that
time.
either. I didn't catch that either. It's interesting. Yeah, whenever you see, because I just rewatched the whole show. Every time like Johnny gets really drunk, like you see, he just drinks a lot. He goes to the bar, he gets hammered and stuff. It always has something to do with Robbie, or dealing with Robbie, or dealing with his ex-wife and stuff. In that instance, it was because his ex-wife came to him and said, "Hey, this guy Silver is giving him money, is giving him gave him a car and stuff to go to the prom with and stuff." So it's always an emotional thing with Johnny, that when it comes to his son, that he starts drinking again. Like I think he drank heavily after his son got arrested, or his son went missing. So I mean, so that's basically anything that has to do with Robbie is going to be, he's going to resort to drinking. So that's one thing I learned from rewatching this.
Well, what do you think about the way they reintroduced Terry Silver?
I thought it was interesting how he just hung up right away in the first scene. He's playing the piano, and he's basically like he's a rich guy, and being a rich guy, you have to play the rich guy game. You're dealing with other snakes. You're a snake, and you're dealing with other snakes, or vipers, as they say in the Game of Thrones books. When you deal with politicians, you deal with other rich people. I mean, you have to be smart to maintain. So, I mean, he's basically a snake, and you see that at the end of the season.
Yep.
But he has to play the game. He's pretending to all this progressive type of thing, like the Kreese is there, and he winces at the idea of a vegan. What was that vegan dish that they were talking about?
Yeah, the tofu, and the girlfriend is trying to keep Terry in line, keep him with the popular people, because when Kreese and Silver start talking about their past as far as Cobra Kai is concerned, as far as Vietnam's concerned, the one guy that makes that snarky remark about Silver being in karate.
Oh, that's cute. Or he said something like that. And then
I think it was, that's cute.
And then Kreese was like, I think Kreese gave him a lot of crap for that afterwards. Or I forget what exactly he said, but he said something. He's like, "Are you finished or something?"
Yeah. I mean, even the flashbacks that we get as far as Silver and Kreese back in Vietnam, those are relevant to what's going on currently in the story. And that's another thing I like about it. They're not just throwing in that backstory for the sake of throwing it in. They're saying these two men come from, a different era, an era in time where, they fought in a war that was a losing battle, unfortunately.
Yeah, and then they came home, and they even say this, they came home, and then they were, they were considered murderers, because all the people that they're called murderers by your hippies and stuff, the ones that want free love and free this and free everything, the ones that like to commune, smoke some, do some drugs and stuff. It was just that type of, they came home that type of thing, and that was the reality. So
that's what my parents told me when I was in junior high and high school, when I was, asking questions about Vietnam. I was even asking my uncle about Vietnam because he served in Vietnam. And he told me, and they told me, that a lot of the servicemen and women weren't welcomed home with open arms. They were booed. They were shunned.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, most of them were drafted. They didn't have a choice for that matter. I mean,
no.
And then they knew people that died. I mean, it's something you don't. It's something you can't forget. It's something that you can't turn off. I mean, it stays with you for the rest of your life. That experience. And I'm thankful I'm a civilian, but those that have served, thank you. Especially those that were in or who have been in chaotic, horrendous situations like that. So,
yeah, because I can't even imagine what they went through, going through that myself. I don't know how I would handle it. I really don't.
I'd probably panic. I get scared. I probably wouldn't think straight. Hence why you need the training. You need the basic training. You need the discipline and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's also one thing that's mentioned in this season when Silver and Kreese are talking to each other. They started Cobra Kai to bring respect, to bring discipline to a lot of young men because of what they faced in Vietnam. So that was very prevalent to the story.
Yeah, the whole no mercy thing. I mean, that whole strike first, strike hard, no mercy. That's basically it's basically a survival means. It's a means of surviving a war, surviving, a battle, survive, a situation where anyone could be your enemy, especially guerrilla warfare. And they were, I forget, were they berets? Was he a beret?
Yeah, they were berets.
They were special. Okay, they were green berets, so they did special missions, and they were put at the point of, I think Kreese himself was point. Was point whenever they went out and stuff. So, and he was the one that was willing to, take up the responsibility, the load and stuff. I mean, based on what we first introduced him as a young man, he was bullied himself, but he, they said his mother had psychological problems or had mental health problems and stuff. So he was basically alone, and he was probably bullied for not having what other kids did. And we see that he's waiting, these busboys waiting tables, and he's being bullied by these these jocks. I mean, it's kind of it's. I mean, he fights back. I mean, I don't know if he was trained, but from all that history of fighting, he manages to fight them back and beat them up, and he gets the girl. He basically saves that girl from abuse, from a toxic, abusive relationship. And then, of course, he goes into the service, and they find out that she got killed, and the commander of the berets did not divulge that until right before they fight at the end of the season. Right before they fight over that snake pit, that pit of snakes. Always makes me think of Indiana Jones when I say pit of snakes. But
I hate snakes.
I hate them, Jock. But yeah, so I'm wondering if that's why he why he was willing to drop the commander into that pit of snakes, was because of that, him divulging that. Or what, I'm kind of wondering if he just decided to become he said no mercy and stuff. Based on, I'm just kind of wondering why he made that decision at the end, because it seems like they're trying to build a redemption arc for him because all the things he did at that moment, and then of course in the Karate Kid film, especially beginning of part 2, where he attacks, he gets into an argument with Johnny, and he basically he starts choke holding him, and of course Miyagi breaks them up, and then he tries to fight Miyagi, and Miyagi, of course, you can't hit Miyagi because Miyagi is the best. And he just basically he spares them, and then they all quit as a result. That's, I'm guessing, the way the show is showing this. Kreese is basically, Kreese cares about Johnny. One thing I did take away from the last few seasons, Kreese really, and especially this season, Kreese cares about Johnny in a way that I would compare. Maybe you might disagree with me, Jesse and Walter White, if you've seen Breaking Bad.
I have seen Breaking Bad. I haven't seen the whole thing, but I understand where you're coming from. And yes, you can see that Kreese cares about Johnny. I mean, look at what happens in the last episode. When Silver says, "I'll take care of Johnny," and the look on Kreese's face.
Yeah, Kreese is like, no, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, we said we're going to handle this in the tournament. That's what we're going to do. And of course, they had further disagreements, and we know how this season ends ultimately with what what happens to Kreese. So I think this is, this is definitely we're going to see some sort of redemption.
Mm-hmm. It'd be nice to see a redemption for a character like Kreese, a character who's such a hard ass.
Yeah, and
but
I mean,
he has a reason for being that way.
Yeah. So I hope. I just hope it ends. I just hope it ends well. I just hope all the villains become they throughout a good proper build up that there will be a good payoff to their arcs and stuff.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think of the new characters that were introduced
in this season, or in Cobra Kai in general?
In Cobra Kai in general.
Well, I love Miguel. I think Miguel is the main reason that Johnny would ever get redeemed in the first place. I mean, and there was that moment where he literally says, I think Johnny's wasted, and I think or Miguel says he loves him. And that moved me to tears. So I love Miguel. There's times where even he goes astray, he, especially at the end of season 1, where he resorts to, hitting, Robbie's weakness and stuff. But yeah, I love Miguel. Sam is, I'm kind of in the middle with Sam. She's okay at times, but there are times where I don't like her.
There were points this season I didn't like her.
Yeah, because you figure, with all that she learned about, Miyagi-Do, and about what her father went through, being bullied. I'm sure they all know the story well, how he became, they all know the story about how he met Miyagi and stuff. So it's not like it's anything new, but I mean, the only way to end, a feud, the only way to end bullying is to, if the bully stops, then you friend the bully. You don't continue it, or you're just gonna create more toxicity, and you're gonna just fuel the flames of division, like a lot of YouTubers say, fuel the flames of division. And I'm not for that. So
no.
So whenever, when I grew up, I wouldn't say I was bullied. I'm a big kid. I'm still kind of a big guy, but I wasn't bullied physically, but I was bullied. I was harassed quite a bit, just people just trying to get me in trouble, saying things about me that weren't true. So I had to basically, there were times where I lost faith. I'm like, why are people like this and stuff? But whenever I felt because I went to church, and I had good people, I had good role models, which I'm more than thankful for. I was able to see past it, and if anybody was willing to be friendly, I would give them the benefit of the doubt, because it's not worth being, it's not worth keeping a feud up. I know people get angry and stuff, but I'll be honest, anger makes you stupid most of the time.
Yeah, it does. You end up doing a lot of stupid things when you're angry.
Yeah. And you say stupid things, and you really only get one chance at certain things. So don't squander it, in my opinion.
And Felix has a good question. Do we think that Silver's going to be the ultimate bad in the next 2 seasons?
I think he'll be the bad in the next season. I'm wondering if we're going to get a redemption arc for him. That's what I'm curious about. Or maybe he will be the villain. Maybe it was the torch was handed from Kreese to him.
And that's another thing. We don't know who else they're going to bring in for season 5.
Maybe Mike Barnes.
Possibly.
I mean, Mike Barnes. I would say if they ended the show like the way they ended the original Karate Kid trilogy, like if Daniel had to face like his greatest foe was Mike Barnes, in my opinion. I mean, Johnny was his first foe, but Mike Barnes was his final foe. So if you're gonna bring like Mike Barnes in, I think you got to bring him like towards the end. Terry Silver would bring him back or something, or maybe he would have his own. Some people there are theories that Tori's father is Mike Barnes.
Yeah, I've heard
and
that.
I think it would work. I think it would work thematically because you know how in part 3, Daniel's son was super duper afraid of Mike Barnes. Like Mike Barnes was ruthless as hell, and I think his daughter Sam in the last season had like she had panic attacks whenever she thought about Tori or the fight that they had in the school at the end of season 2. So I would think it would be thematically, or as George Lucas would say, it'd be like poetry. It rhymes. I think it would be an interesting thing. I don't know if they'll do that though, but if they do, it would make sense to me. I would buy it.
I would buy it too, just based on that history in Karate Kid 3 alone.
I'd buy that more than Leia being Luke's sister. Okay, but that's a story for another day. I actually need to look into that. I actually need to look into like the decision of making Leia Luke's sister in Return of the Jedi, because I heard that according to Comics Division, I was listening to one of his videos talking about Book of Boba. Apparently, that they were supposed to do like 6 movies back when the original trilogy was coming out. They were supposed to do 6 movies, but Lucas only did 3. So there was supposed to be a movie where they look for Luke's sister, but then they changed it to make Leia Luke's sister. So that's something I really want to read about, but I know that has nothing to do with Cobra Kai.
That's okay. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, anytime I have a live stream, if you want to talk about something else other than the main topic, feel free.
Well, I know it's kind of, I know,
pretty easy going.
I know everybody does their streams differently. I don't want to be too rude to go off topic, Now, if it was my stream, it'd be different, but it's your stream, so I want to be as respectful as I can, so I can come back.
Oh, I'm always happy to have you here, brother.
Thank you.
So, as far as other new characters, we're introduced to Kenny Payne, who has just moved into the area. His father's in the military, and his brother was actually a character that we met the previous season when Robbie was in juvie. So we have that connection.
Yeah, I was like, I'm watching, I'm like, who is this kid? Like, how is he related to all this? And I was like, oh, okay, he's the younger brother of I forgot the guy's name. I forgot the juvie guy's name. The juvie boy.
I've forgotten his name too. But we do get a backstory as to why his brother's in juvie, because of his friends, and they were stealing from Kenny's parents, and Kenny tried to intervene, and then his friends were bullies, and they tried to attack Kenny, and, well, his brother defended him and ended up in juvie because of it.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So what do you think of Kenny?
Kenny, I mean, yeah, Kenny kind of is a parallel to Daniel back in the first Karate Kid. I mean, he's, and the big twist this time is one of the bullies is Daniel's son Anthony, who we finally see. We actually see a little bit more of him in this season. He's obviously older now. He's a teenager. It's funny how like it's been. It's going to be 4 years. It's going to be almost 4 years since the first season came out. So like time, it makes you remember seeing these younger characters, younger actors, older now, just tells you like, how much time has passed, So it was interesting seeing that little jerk Anthony, get what was coming to him. That kid pissed me off the last 3 seasons. It was nice to see someone own him and stuff, but at the same time, they were developing him too. Like he was learning. He was basically there were consequences for his attitude and for everything. And I'm kind of glad that's coming to the forefront. Hopefully, they'll develop him. Maybe he'll learn karate himself after what happened at the end. And I'm worried about Kenny. I'm worried that Kenny's on a bad path because of Cobra Kai, and that's kind of what led to Robbie's awakening at the end, and what led to his ultimate I would guess you could say it's the beginning of reconciliation with Johnny. I mean, that's how good this writing is. Like, is this all like next?
Yeah, and one thing I noticed about Kenny is that he's willing to go under anyone's wing, whether it's Robbie, whether it's Kreese, whether it's Silver. He's willing to learn the teachings of Cobra Kai just so he can get back at Anthony and his friends.
Yeah, I mean, a person can only be humiliated so much before they're going to lash back at you. So I mean, it's like what's the analogy? Poking the bear. That's basically what it is. And I mean, he wanted to do something about it. That's why he went and joined Cobra Kai. And luckily, I don't think I forget. Like he went in, Kreese didn't want him because he was too small or something. I think it was Robbie that spoke up for him, or was it Silver that spoke up for him?
Robbie.
Okay.
Robbie got in his corner. Yeah. And before Felix leaves, he has a question for us. Do we think that an original character will die? Well, that's what I'm wondering about for next season.
Because I hope not.
For next season, we do know that Johnny is actually going after Miguel because Miguel left and he's off to Mexico.
Yeah, to find his father, and his father doesn't know he exists. And his father's a criminal. I don't know if that. And when you think Mexico, when you think criminal in Mexico, you think cartel, or you think drug lord or something. Probably someone that has a lot of influence and probably a lot of money at this point. So who knows? I see. It's not like like Game of Thrones or regular science fiction and fantasy where characters could die at any point. I mean, the way I see Karate Kid and Cobra Kai is it's more of a slice of life type of thing. I know a slice of life is actually an anime genre, but I see Karate Kid as a slice of life type of genre where you don't see characters die. Like, I don't think anyone in the Karate Kid movies has died. They've been defeated, disgraced, but not died. Like, Kreese was the main villain of the first one. And I mean, I don't think anyone will die per se. Like, if they go it's gonna be like a much darker route than any of the movies ever did.
Yeah, so that's really a hard question, at least for me to answer, because like you're saying, we never saw anybody die in any of the 4 original movies. So whether they would have that happen here on the series, I don't know.
I do
Especially with how popular some characters are.
Yeah. I do have a question though. It's not about death though. What do you think? I know the original Karate Kid movies were rated PG and stuff, and of course the original. I mean, all the Star Trek movies up to this point were rated PG, PG-13. What do you think of them now? With Star Trek, we've talked about this. Whenever they drop F-bombs and in the new Trek, it's just cringe. It's like awful and stuff. But with Karate Kid, or with Cobra Kai in particular, not Karate Kid, Cobra Kai, I'm more forgiving about them whenever they use the F-bomb. Because as far as I'm concerned, kids use the F-bomb all the time. And adults use the F-bomb in the real life. Because, to me, this is slice of life territory. And people in general swear. They say the F word. So, unlike Star Trek, where, like, if you watch Star Trek 4, swearing is an alien thing. So when you're seeing them breaking that idea in new Trek, especially Discovery, it's cringe.
It is, and another thing that I wanted to ask you about, because it does show up in this season, is you know Johnny's take on everything that's going on now, as far as you know the culture change that's trying to go into effect. The woke culture and all that. To me, Johnny's those of us who are looking at woke culture and saying, enough of this crap. How about you?
Well, what do you want? I didn't get the question.
Okay. Johnny's reaction to woke culture. To me, Johnny's, us, those of us who are going, enough of this crap. It's not real. It's not authentic.
Oh yeah, it was like, because one thing this kind of goes back to season 1. He's very poor at advertising and marketing. He just goes up to people, hands them shit. And they just one girl literally puts the flyer back in his hand. It's like, we're looking for some hot babes and some badass dudes to join our dojo and stuff. And then he tries with that one girl. The one that
the one that's
the L,
the cheerleading
the
squad.
the L letter in the alphabet community, the L letter. They actually do the whole talking, all the talking points, all the word that rhymes with soak, talking points, and it was pretty funny hearing this, all the pronouns and the he's like, they're like gender fluid. He's like, yeah, you need he's like, yeah, you need your fluids. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, he was just going along with it just for the sake of what every company does now. It's basically making fun of what companies are doing, which is embracing this, or at least pretending to embrace these things.
Well, even that girl that's on the debate team, when she decides to join Eagle Fang Dojo, and she tells Johnny her pronouns, and Johnny says, well, I'm Sensei and you're a student. That's all you need to know.
And then he's like, quiet. Every time he does that, I love it. I just yes, keep doing it.
Yes.
I forget. Did he do the quiet? Did he scream quiet in the Karate Kid? I'm trying to remember. Did he scream quiet at anybody?
I'll have to go back and watch the first Karate Kid movie.
Because obviously he wasn't the sensei, but he was like the head. He was like the lead. He was like the lead student. So,
yeah, he was the star pupil.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we get that girl who's part of the debate team. She joins Eagle Fang. I didn't dislike her. I didn't like her. She was just there for a short time.
Yeah, if they bring her back, and I'm sure they will, I hope they develop her further. And I'd love to see more of Aisha, and we got Stingray back. I mean, Stingray is a big part of the end of the season, and I hope he doesn't go down a dark path, because I hope this is not the end of his story, because Silver beats him up and forces him to. I don't know if it's out of fear. I'm assuming this was just simply out of genuine fear of Silver, that he said, "Oh, John Kreese did this to me." What do you think that? Do you think that was the reason why he said that? Was out of fear, not because he wanted to be part of Cobra Kai, but out of fear of Silver?
Think about it. Raymond just got his ass kicked. He's on the floor. He's bruised and battered, and who knows if he's gonna live. If he hadn't been taken to the hospital, who knows if he's gonna live. So what are you gonna do out of fear when someone like Silver basically makes a deal with you? You're making a deal with the devil when it comes to Silver.
Yeah.
And that's what ends up happening to Stingray. And, speaking of Aisha, what did you think when you saw her back?
I was surprised. I was worried. I didn't think we were going to ever see her again. I thought, because I looked into why they didn't bring her back in the last season, it was because they just didn't know what to do with her. Which I was like, okay. I think they could have simply had her, working with, being with Cobra Kai for a little bit, and then leaving the rest of them, like Hawk and the rest of them did. So Oh, and speaking of Hawk had a big transformation this season too.
Yes, he did. It's
They
character growth. That's one of
yep.
the things I wanted to talk about tonight. It's character growth in this season.
Yes. Like it seemed like Hawk was only confident because of his mohawk and it seemed like the mohawk was the thing that was keeping him confident in himself, but it was actually he actually had to learn that it was what was inside. Like Mr. Miyagi always says, it's what it's the karate that's inside. It's what's inside you that counts. It's the confidence that you feel, and that allows you to move forward and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, he gets that, and he actually wins the he wins against frickin' Robbie. I did not expect him to. I'll be honest, I did not expect him to win. I did not expect him to. I was expecting Robbie to win the tournament, to be honest, because Robbie lost in season 1. So I was expecting Robbie to win this time, and for the Tori to lose. I was expecting Sam to win, but instead Sam lost and Tori won, and it was the other way around. So,
yeah.
But I did think Cobra Kai was going to win, so I wasn't disappointed there. I mean, this is not the final season. The bad guys have to win.
Yeah, they have to win around here and there, and
especially if it's like a penultimate season, or if it's like the middle. If this is do you consider this like the middle chapter, this season to be like the middle chapter of the entire story?
It definitely feels that way as you're watching this season move along from one episode to the next. It definitely feels like it's the middle chapter. Now, I don't know how many seasons we're actually going to get of this show. Hopefully we get 7 seasons. But it definitely does feel like you're in the middle of the book and you still have maybe 200 more pages or so to go before you're actually finished. Depending on the size of the novel, of course.
Yeah, and especially the way the season ended, I mean, I'm expecting at least 2 more seasons. If season 5 is the final season, I'll be surprised. But I see the one and only Spock has an unpopular opinion. He says, I don't like Robbie, and I'll be honest, I did not like him either until this season. I liked him. I think his character grew quite a bit this season. I mean, he was barely in the last season, and I mean, yeah, I'm happy that his character moved forward a little bit, and he was able to reconcile with Johnny. So I'm really curious where they're going to go with him. Like, I don't know if he's going to continue with Cobra Kai, or if he's going to. I have no idea where they're going to go with him.
That's the thing, and getting back to Aisha, do you think, seeing her in this season, do you think it leaves the door open for her to return as a full-time character in season 5?
I don't know. I mean, they didn't really I don't know if that scene was meant to like say, hey, we didn't forget about her and stuff. Because basically the season 2 ends normally, and then season 3 with just a little those two girls that were kind of the bullies in season 1. They were like, oh, she moved away and blah blah blah. Like, it was just like throwaway dialogue, so to explain why she was absent. And then we find out they moved all the way to Santa Barbara and
Santa Barbara,
which is like I'm guessing it's like a couple hours away, from the valley. So
it is.
I'll be honest. I mean, it didn't seem like a farewell to her, but I don't know. I'll be honest. I hope so. I hope she comes back in some form, whether it's be recurring or not. I'd love to see her, grow as a martial artist. I'd like to see all the characters grow. I mean, it was cool seeing more of the nerdy kid. That there was the short little blonde dude with the glasses, and there was the short little Asian kid. They got more dialogue. They were actually bullying Kenny briefly, and when Kenny was wearing like a Cobra Kai thing, they were bullying him. Like, those two dorks. I literally thought those two dorks are bullying that kid. I'm like, come on. It's so interesting in this series how there's so many different levels of bullying. Like, everyone bullies another to another to another to another. It's like a hierarchy of bullies.
Mhm.
I don't know if you've noticed
know,
that too.
yeah, I've noticed it too because remember, Hawk and Dimitri were on that lower pecking order. So was Miguel, and
Yeah.
it seems like each and every character that's introduced, there's always that pecking order.
Yeah. And it goes all the way up to, even up to, I would say it goes up to Daniel. It even goes up to the senseis to a degree.
Yeah.
Because they had their
Well,
histories too. We find out Johnny was bullied. He went through a lot of fights. He had a stepfather, Eddie Asner of all people. Who rest in peace, Eddie Asner. He was bullied by his stepfather. He was bullied by other kids in school. It wasn't really until he joined Cobra Kai I think in '79, according to the show. And then it was Kreese that was like a father to him. So when Kreese did all that stuff to Johnny at the end of part 2, or beginning of part 2, I mean, it just destroyed their relationship. And of course, at the beginning in season 2, Kreese literally takes the trophy that he broke in Karate Kid part 2. He brings it back like, I fixed it. He's trying to make amends with Johnny. He cares about him.
He does. And again, you see that throughout the season. You've seen that throughout the entire series thus far. How much Kreese cares about him.
So I'm wondering if and I'm just curious if there will be a reconciliation between those two. That's a bigger question.
There could be, but if I was writing the show, I wouldn't have it happen until the end of the season.
Yeah. Maybe the very end of the show.
Yeah.
Unless they kill him. Maybe he could die. Maybe Kreese could die. I don't know how.
Yeah, to answer Felix's previous question, maybe it's Silver, like you're saying, that ends up killing Kreese.
Yeah.
Because honestly, when Johnny shows up at the old dojos, the old space where they had the original dojo, and you see Kreese there and you see Silver there, I didn't know what was going to happen. I thought they were going to kill Johnny.
Yeah, I had no idea what was going to happen either. I was wondering if Johnny was going to beat Kreese or beat Silver, but Silver ended up beating him.
Mm-hmm.
So it reminds me of the old Terry Silver from part 3. Like he was like,
yep,
the only one that could beat him was Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, and getting onto another topic, what do you think about how they're developing the relationship between Miguel's mom and Johnny?
I think it's interesting. I guess they're trying to, I don't know. I mean, they're trying to bring that family element. Maybe, obviously, there's obviously tension and stuff. Now that Johnny's with his mother and stuff, he's more protective. He sees Miguel more of a son than ever. That's how I see it. And of course, for Miguel, it's all it's awkward now because of this. Like during their training, he wouldn't let Miguel do some of the stuff, do some of the the hitting and stuff. So yeah, and I don't know, all that kind of built up. Like there was this season he had a disconnect. I mean, we see Miguel bonding with Daniel, and he's learning more about cars. They're learning more about Miyagi-Do. We see him go through the wax on, wax off Mr. Miyagi, training process, which once again, seeing anyone going through that process is just awesome because I mean, I love the Karate Kid. But like this brings up a little jealousy in Johnny, and I don't blame him for feeling that way. But at the same time, I mean, Miguel has to go on his own path, and it might not necessarily mean Johnny's eagle claw or eagle fang, eagle fang karate. Wait, eagles don't have fangs. Quiet.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Johnny, he gets ticked off about the fact that he sees Daniel and Miguel hanging out, and the fact that his students are willing to learn Miyagi-Do instead of taking the lessons that Johnny is teaching them with Eagle Fang to strike first. And Johnny, he just doesn't want any part of Miyagi Do. Even when Daniel tries to teach him the lessons of Miyagi Do, Johnny's so resistant to it.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't want to be pussified, as he so boldly puts it.
And I want to welcome Dr. Derpy, and he's saying Mike Barnes season 5. Well, we've already touched up on it, and we do think that's a good possibility.
That, or at least, like I said earlier, Mike Barnes could be the final villain for Daniel, because like in part 3, he was basically the final thing that made him. He was the final thing he had to overcome. And a lot of people, and I've said this earlier, Sam, who had to overcome, Tori, deal with her in season 3. I could see Tori being connected to Mike Barnes, maybe her father, perhaps the absent father. Who knows?
Yeah. And speaking of Tori, did you find yourself liking her more in this season compared to previous seasons?
Yes, I did. She was a little less. She was a little more restrained this time. It was interesting that that was actually Daniel's wife, Amanda, that was actually trying to pretty much offer an olive branch to her and stuff, get her the help she needed. And we find out, because of Amanda's own history when she was a kid, that she went through something similar, and she did something violent against someone and got in trouble for it. And that's the whole idea of feeling powerless as a kid, and then you lash out and stuff. And then she was able to relate, and because of that, that's why she was helping her. And there's of course tension between Amanda and her daughter Sam. Sam's like, "Why are you helping her? She nearly killed me and stuff." And she's like, "I want you to put." She literally says, "I want you to put an end to this crap, this feud and stuff." And she says this to Tori as well. She's like, "I want you. I'm rooting for my daughter." At the end, she's like, "I'm rooting for my daughter. I'm rooting that you guys can end this feud and stuff in your own way."
Yep. And even when Tori loses her waitressing job and gets that other job, and of course Sam's there with her mother Amanda, and Sam doesn't want to be there at first, but then she sees Tori, and the fact that Tori spins the story to the kids that Sam's an evil witch and she needs to be taken care of, and they dump all that glitter on her, that's just putting more fuel to the fire between those two.
Yeah, that was cruel on her part.
Yeah,
I would have just I would have smiled. Well, I probably would have smiled, maybe laughed, but then I probably would have just left it alone. But then again, I haven't been in that situation in a long time, so who knows what I would have done. I see Spock says when he hugged Johnny this season, I'll admit it was wholesome, but at the same time, he had what was coming to him. Yeah, I agree. I actually agree with Spock. I have the same thing. It's a love-hate relationship with Robbie. I don't know how you feel, Mike, about Robbie. He basically started off as unlikable.
Yeah. And I think there's still that unlikable quality to him because you don't know what side of the fence he's going to be on next.
Yeah.
One season he's with Miyagi-Do. Next season he's with Cobra Kai. Who's he going to join next? Eagle Fame, because of what happened with him and Johnny. And then what is he going to do? Is he going to turn his back on Johnny and go his own route? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know if this is just this is one of the weaknesses in the writing, maybe. Maybe it's one of those inconsistent. It's more inconsistent to get the plot moving. I don't know. To be honest, I don't know why he's kind of written like that. I mean, in some ways it works, but in a lot of the ways, I a lot of times I roll my eyes when Robbie comes on the screen. He's one of my lesser characters, but I still am invested in him and Johnny reconciling in some way and working together, fighting together. I want to see them fight together against a bunch of other people, back to back.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I'd love to see.
Yeah, and that's the thing about this series is you may have a particular character you like, a particular character you don't like, but you want to see what's best for these characters. You're invested in these characters, like you're saying. Unlike a lot of shows now, unlike a lot of movies now, where you're not fully invested into what's going on with the characters. With each and every character that we've been reintroduced to in this series and introduced to in this series, you become invested in those characters.
Reason why we become invested in characters is because the writers basically let us know the motivations of the characters, what the characters want, and of course we have to see their situations, and that gives us the chance to empathize with them. And if we can empathize with them and get invested like that, that's a success.
Mm-hmm.
And this show does that. I wish other shows did that, but I mean, it takes a lot of writing. It takes a high writing skill to be able to pull that off, because it's not easy. Writing is one of the hardest things you can do. So yeah. I mean, and the people that they hire for Lucasfilm and especially CBS or Secret Hideout, whatever the hell they're called now, they're just hiring people that probably know they're probably are nieces and nephews of friends of Alex Kurtzman.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, you're not going to get quality talent. You're going to get mediocrity.
You need people that have some life experience.
I agree.
Who have actually been out there in the real world in some degree or another. Not those that have lived in some sort of bubble most of their lives. And that's what we get with a lot of shows.
And it doesn't even necessarily... Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
That's right. That's right. But people that live in bubbles is what we're getting from a lot of writing teams now.
Yeah, like people that have to experience things like loss, rejection. I mean, positives, negatives. It's got to be someone balanced that can, that understands these emotions and stuff, that has dealt with stuff like that, and can. Like, I think a lot of these writers don't relate to it because they're generally their lives are, usually comfortable. They have always had friends. I mean, I've known very few people that have, dealt with, I mean, it's not probably not true, but I know a lot of people that pretty much had, always had friends, were always, had very little in terms of, was it adversity? I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But when I did see people go through stuff similar, I always empathized. I never really wanted to, I never really bought into the misery likes company. But at the same time, I don't like to see other people be miserable. But at the same time, I do want to relate to people in the same way. So seeing that gives me a chance to relate further and maybe, relate and, hopefully develop something from that. So that's what I think writers need to have a little more empathy. Need to have a little more empathy, a little more. I mean, you have to have world experience. You have to have experienced everything. Loss, longing, happiness. Everything, the whole shebang.
Yep, and getting to the current culture dynamic, if you look at it this way, and this is just how I'm looking at it, you could disagree with me all you want, but this is a product from Sony, and Sony has given us Cobra Kai, they've given us Spider-Man No Way Home, and they've given us Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Oh, they did do Ghostbusters.
Yeah. What do all three of those have in common? The fact that they're paying respect to what came before, and they're not, stomping on it and saying it's no good.
We're better. We're gonna fix what was wrong back then. We're gonna fix that machine that wasn't broken. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I like Ghostbusters. I felt I felt it wasn't quite the Ghostbusters I was looking for. Because when I think Ghostbusters, I think big city. I think schlubby guys, as Red Letter Media puts it, 4 schlubby guys who are, just normal guys, and they become celebrities because they're the only ones that can defeat the ghosts or take away the problem. And it's always ends with an epic, feel good, everyone's cheering you on type of deal. Whereas Afterlife felt more like a Spielberg movie, a coming of age Goonies / Spielberg type of movie. But with, Ghostbusters, with ghosts and stuff.
Yeah, and I do feel that when it came to Afterlife, that we should have seen Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, and Ernie Hudson a little more in the movie.
Yeah, kind of like the way they did with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield in No Way Home, which I thought was perfect because it felt like it was a continuation of their arcs in that movie.
Yep.
From the Sam Raimi trilogy and the Amazing duology. So, which makes me want to I have not watched those movies. I don't think I've ever seen Amazing Spider-Man 2, but I haven't watched the Sam Raimi film since I saw them in the theaters. So, kind of makes me want to revisit them now after seeing, No Way Home. And No Way Home is probably the one Marvel movie I want to buy on Blu-ray.
Yeah. After
it might be my favorite. It might be my favorite Marvel movie in the MCU.
Yeah. After watching it, I'm thinking to myself as I'm walking out of the theater, that was a damn good movie. It's worth watching.
I went and saw it with my friend Brian. I was lucky to get a couple of tickets because, like, the first night, the night that I was doing doing my Christmas charity stream, we wanted to go see it right after that. We couldn't get it. We couldn't get tickets. Even at 11 o'clock at night, Central Time, we couldn't get tickets. They were all sold out. And so I was lucky to get 2 tickets the following night. So that's how crazy. That's how crazy it was when it came out. Like, everybody went and saw it.
Yeah, I had to wait for it to come to a theater that's actually in the town I live in. That's just a few blocks from my house. Because the other theater that we have around here, there weren't any tickets available.
I was surprised, to be honest. I was surprised to see this many people in the theaters again. I didn't think that would ever happen because I saw Dune, I saw Halloween Kills, and I saw Bond and Ghostbusters all in the theater. And I was like one of like maybe 15 people in the theater when I saw those. So I was pleasantly surprised to see a lot of people in the theater again. So theaters are not dead yet. So
no, all we need are good movies to want to go see with good characters, good plots. Same with TV shows. Good characters, good plots. We'll watch it.
Yeah, you gotta put in the work. You have to put in the effort, and you have to. I'm going to say this, and I say this all the time on social media. We are not entitled to give your product a chance. If Sony or if any one of you studios are out listening to this, we are not entitled to give you a chance. It is your job to entice us, to get us to view your product. And the same with you, Disney. I am not entitled to give your Book of Boba Fett a chance. Your Mandalorian was, I'm sorry, but it was mediocre. I've seen better shows. I've seen better science fiction in the 90s. So if you can, I'm sure you can do better. But we're not. Neither of us are entitled to give you a chance.
Yeah, and another thing I want to add, and this is to Sony in case Sony is watching, that just because we're praising Cobra Kai, Ghostbusters Afterlife, and Spider-Man No Way Home doesn't mean you guys can start slacking off. No. Keep doing these types of shows, these types of movies, things that will get us to get off of our butts, go to the theater, and actually pay our hard-earned money to go see it, or pay a subscription service just so we can see the show because it's worth watching. Because you have characters who have, started off from point A, they go to point B, they go point C, D and E, That's what we want. We want to see characters grow. We want to see characters learn the skills like the kids in Cobra Kai are learning these skills. We don't want these kids to come in and all of a sudden know more than Johnny and Daniel. No, we don't want that.
And if he can't provide, then we'll just simply go back and watch older stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We're not. Yeah, I mean, it's up to you guys. If you guys want to stay afloat, you guys gotta appeal to the customer. We're your customers, and we're always right. You don't have to listen to us, but you don't always have to agree with us, but you have to listen.
Yeah, it's like
and
I said in my quick take of Boba Fett. It's not bad. It's not great. It's good. And for me saying good, that's basically saying it's mediocre. It's mediocre. I want to see more. Yes, it's only one episode, but I want to see more as to why we should even give a damn about Boba.
Yeah, your first episode needs to be enticing. Your first episode needs to be enticing. If you cannot entice your viewer, why should we think that the rest of your show is going to be enticing? If you can't do it with the first episode, what makes you think you're going to be able to do it later down the line? It's basically giving a handshake. It's like you're making us a handshake deal. It's a risk.
Speaking of handshake deals, getting back to Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Johnny spitting it into his hand.
Yep.
And wanted to shake Daniel's hand for a handshake deal.
Yeah, and he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. In this season, we see how Daniel and Johnny have to try to work together. Ultimately, it doesn't work out for the two of them. Ultimately, they're too set in their own ways, and it's not until later on in the season that Daniel realizes he has to change. He has to do something different than what he's been taught.
And Johnny gives him a lot of crap for this. Like, he literally says, you cannot, admit when you're wrong. He's like, you don't admit when you're wrong sometimes. So, so like at the end of the season, they both, admitted to each other, their mistakes. And I felt that was a step in the right direction for them.
What could Sony do with Star Trek or Star Wars?
Well, with Star Trek, do what let's get some sort of temporal anomaly, and we'll bring back all of the Deep Space Nine Voyager characters together, like in Spider-Man. Just bring them all back. Let's get the original series characters. CGI the hell out of Mr. Nimoy, DeForest Kelly, James Doohan, all of them. Let's bring them back, Peter Cushing style, and even Khan. Let's bring all the villains back. Let's just make this a whole smorgasbord of characters that existed before, because that's what I think would happen. We'll bring back Q. Oh wait, they're already bringing back Q. Sorry, we'll bring back Gul Dukat. We'll bring back Trelane. We'll bring back Khan. Ricardo Montalban's Khan, because Benedict Cumberbatch is John Harrison. I don't care what you think. He is not Khan. He's one of Khan's people in my headcanon. I don't know if you'd agree with that. I don't know if what you think of that. What do you think of Benedict Cumberbatch lying about being Khan? Because he's not Khan. He's clearly not Khan.
He isn't Khan. I'm sorry.
I could see him being one of Khan's people, but he's not Khan. He's one of Khan's European, like they were all mixed. Like, if you remember the 57 units in Botany Bay, they were all mixed. According to Scotty, they were all mixed types. Western, Mid-European, Land Oriental. That's how many times I've seen Spacey that I can quote that. But yeah, Benedict Cumberbatch is one of the Europeans, in my opinion.
Yep.
Not that I really care much about JJ Trek now.
No, I don't. But imagine if they had done Cobra Kai and they just recasted the characters of Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence. It wouldn't work.
No. You have to. Here's the other thing. You have to. The viewer there has to be some verisimilitude. We have to be able to suspend our disbelief and believe that, you know, these characters are who you guys are saying they are. When I can't believe that, that means you failed. That means the show has failed. But Cobra Kai has not done that in any way whatsoever. I have not once gotten. There's been very few points I've not suspended my disbelief. So this show's done a really good job.
This show's done
engaged.
This show's done a very good job at not giving me too many eye-rolling moments where I'm going, "Oh, come on."
I agree. Same here. Even the cringe Johnny moments where he's trying to advertise, but that was designed to be, you know, to be funny. So
yeah, and it was. I mean, even in this season when Johnny's trying to recruit some girls to his dojo, and he's got Miguel there, and you know, Johnny's running on the track, and there's the two girls running on the track, and they're thinking he's a sexual predator, so they're running for their lives.
Yeah, exactly. That was funny.
Yeah. And, you know, Johnny, again, is just trying to do it the way Miguel's advising him to do it, but Johnny has his own way. And there comes a point in one's life where we get set in our ways.
Yeah, that's true. It's part of being an adult, especially middle age, you know. You're not going to change what, you know, if something works for you, why change it? I mean, I always like to think, you know, I always like to have an open mind about things, and I'm willing to change certain things. But yeah, it's just we become more stubborn as we get older.
Mm-hmm. And that's the show does show that Johnny is unwilling to adapt to, you know, current times because he is already set in his ways. You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Yeah, I agree.
And even Daniel's set in his ways. I mean, we've already touched upon it, that he realizes that Miyagi-Do isn't the be-all, end-all type of teaching. He's got to adapt, and that's why he brings in Chosen at the end. What did you think of that reveal?
That I did not see. Here's what I actually thought what we were going to see. I thought we were going to see once again a CGI recreation of Mr. Miyagi, just like him. Like I thought we were going to see a CGI recreation of Mr. Miyagi, just standing there, you know, listening to Daniel. So seeing Chosen there was like, whoa! I did not see that coming. I did not think he was going to be in. I'll be honest, I didn't think he was going to be in any more of the story. I thought his time in season 3 was going to be it. Like he goes to Okinawa, and then he learns how to disable people by hitting like under their arms, hitting the pressure points under their arms to disable their, you know, arms and stuff. So I'm curious what they're going to do with him, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, because when I saw Daniel at Mr. Miyagi's gravesite, I thought Daniel was going to get up, walk away, and then we were going to cut the credits. And that's how the season was going to end.
That's how I thought so too, yeah. So this makes season 5 even more interesting now. Now even more people are coming together. So I'm just curious how many more people from the Karate Kid movies are going to show up.
Well,
they got to get Mike Barnes back.
Yeah.
I mean, what's his name? Star Wars Theory. Well, he has his own channel, Cobra Kai Theory. Same guy. Yeah, he did an interview with Mike Barnes, and or the actor that plays Mike Barnes, I think it was Sean or something, I think is his name.
I can look it up real quick.
And he hasn't really heard anything about. I don't think anyone's contacted him, at least yet. But this was like a couple years ago. This was like after season 2, I think.
Between then and now, they could have already contacted him, and we're just waiting for an announcement.
Yeah. But yeah, they got to bring him back. I feel like they could use him quite a bit. Maybe he'll be Terry Silver's co-sensei.
I'm looking for it right now.
One thing I've noticed in the types of shots that they've been creating, especially in the last season, it seems like, you know, you feel Johnny and Daniel are the two protagonists. It seems like Kreese is the third protagonist. The way, even though he's an antagonist, he comes across as a third protagonist. Like he's just like the third, he's the third end of the triangle, the triad or something. And I don't know. I think that's how I think it's gonna be going forward.
And it would work, to be honest. It would absolutely work.
Yeah, I'd love to see. I'd love to see how they would go about redeeming him. That would be an interesting thing to see. Because I mean, like a lot of people, I love redemption stories. They're my favorite. It just makes you think that no matter where you are in your life, no matter what, can I swear, what shit you've done in your life, that you can come back. That you can come back. Like that you, there's never a reason to lose hope and never to feel like you're trapped. Because if you watch, if you've seen Star Wars, that's how Darth Vader is. That's how he feels.
Mm-hmm.
Like he feels like he's trapped and he can't, change. He literally says, "It's too late, my son. I can't change." Well, he doesn't say that, but he says it's too late. So I'd love to see, and then, of course, at that point, you knew that Vader was going to be redeemed at the end of the movie, just based on that simple dialogue. So, yeah, I'd love to see redemptions. I know, reason why a lot of shows and movies now are so dry and so boring is because there's no redemption. It's all binary. It's either good or bad. Two-dimensional. I don't mind a good two-dimensional villain, I loved Ramsay. He was a jerk in Game of Thrones. But by the time he was defeated, it felt so good because he did not get any. He was never once disrespected up until he got killed. He was always the bad guy. No one ever got anything on him until the end. He never even got hit by anybody until Jon Snow finally beat him. Mm-hmm. So people waited years for that. So I mean, you got to have a good build up to decent villain stuff, but you have to have a good redemption story too for some villains or for some people, and that just makes it more rewarding to watch.
It gives the viewer a reason to come back each and every week, each and every season to see how that story finally plays out. What's the conclusion?
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And that's not easy. It takes a lot of work to do. So.
And the name of the actor that played Mike Barnes is Sean Kanan.
Sean Kanan. Oh, okay, Sean Kanan. Yeah. All right.
But, what I really enjoy about this series is that it's one of those series that you don't get tired of watching over and over and over again. Every time you watch it, you catch something that you didn't catch your first viewing or second viewing or third viewing.
I agree. I think I've seen the first season at least 4 times now, and I just watch it, and I watch it, and I stop what I'm doing. I just finish it because it's, I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, heck, I made a video about this because I like this show enough that I made a layman's guide to it, or layman's introduction to it.
Yes, and if you haven't checked out Nerd's video, please do. It's a great video.
Well, thank you. Shameless plug. Well, actually, I didn't plug it this time. Shameless is my middle name, the Nerdporeal Shameless Lifeform. He always shamelessly plugs his channel at bad moments.
It's all right, brother. One of my rules here on this channel is if you got a channel that you want to promote it, because I want people to grow. I want to help people to grow. That's why I stop by people's streams and say hello and give people a thumbs up, share out their streams, because I want them to grow.
Yeah, I've changed my attitude lately myself. I want people to grow as well, and if people surpass you, great. I'll learn I'll learn what they did so I can grow further myself. But yeah, I mean I want to build. I mean, the whole point is to build networks, build relationships, and build a customer base. I mean, from a project management point of view, I mean, to me, you're a customer. Mike, you're a customer of mine. I'm like a secondary customer to you. So like I have to, or you're a customer to me. I have to fulfill my obligation. I said I would join you on your stream, and I have to honor that. If I don't, then I'm failing the customer.
Well, the reason why I ask you or Spock or anyone else I'm been in contact with to be on my streams is because I enjoy the time that we have together, talking about whatever subject matter we're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah.
And one of my goals for this year for this channel is to improve my presentation, to improve the quality of videos I give, to improve my live streams. It's to improve and grow.
Same
And
here.
the only one that can do that is me.
That's right. Same here. I need to really improve my audio, I have to work on some of my dialogue delivery. I still release videos with mistakes in them. I kind of want to stop doing that because a lot of the bigger YouTubers, they don't do that. Yeah, there's more skills. Like I need to learn how to. I actually want to get a camera and stuff, and eventually, show my face. I want to lose some weight first before I do that, so I look decent. But yeah, learn how to shoot things. Shoot videos and stuff because that's what people like. So yeah, there's still a lot of skills left I have to learn. And of course, there's still some editing stuff. There's still a lot of editing techniques I still have yet to learn. Stuff like I still have not completely mastered Premiere Pro. I don't know if I ever truly will. Because there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff in there.
That sounds like me with DaVinci Resolve. Just when I think I have a grasp of it, I realize I'm not really grasping it as much as I should.
Yeah. Luckily, editing for me is not too. It's not nearly as rigid. It's a very fluid process for me. Like I go through I have digital copies of movies and stuff that I use, and I go through them and I look at the clip, and I try to keep like a single shot. Like if there's more than one shot, and if there's a shot that's like less than a second long, it looks horrible when you're watching it. Like it just looks like you're like something stuck out at you, and then just then it goes to another thing. It looks dirty. It looks bad. So you try to keep everything smooth as possible. Beautiful shots. Pretend you're Stanley Kubrick. Make it perfect. Make it as perfect as you can. Well, if I was Stanley Kubrick, I'd be working on the video for like years. That's how crazy he was. But yeah, like I try to keep like a decent fluid, editing thing. My buddy taught me how to use the software. I'm just grateful for learning how to do it, and for being able to build relations with you and many others, Spock, Alan, Paul, everyone that I've done streams with, and they've supported me. So I try to do the same when I'm just like going around. Looking for other streams, one night just going around looking for other streams to kind of participate in, leave a like and stuff, same thing.
Yeah, because there are times where I'm sure you're not able to partake in the chat, but you're at least listening and you're using it as background as you're working on a video. Same with me. I may not say much in the chat when I'm listening to a video or watching a video, but sometimes I just want something as background noise, and I want something that maybe sparks my interest, especially, recently. And I know I'm going to be plugging another channel here, but I don't care. Loki's Mornings of Mischief. He's been giving some great advice as far as YouTubing is concerned. And I'm listening to what he's saying, and one of the main things he's been emphasizing is you have to have love for this. You can't just do it and have the end goal be money. You have to have love for it, enjoyment for it, before you can even think about the dollar signs.
Enjoyment of the craft, of
Yeah.
the phases, every aspect of it. I agree. It has to be something worth doing. It has to be something that's worth investing your time into. I mean, money would just simply be a side, it would be a simple end result. It would be a simple end result. That's all it would be. But that's not the main motivation.
And, that does sort of, in a way, bring us back to Cobra Kai of what they've done. They, of course, with it being Hollywood, are in it for the money first and foremost. But it does come off in the final product that everybody that's involved with the show is loving what they're doing and is doing what they can to give us the best product available.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
So when it comes to season 5, if you had it your way, what would happen?
I think, honestly, I mean, the tournament's already over, so I think what I think is I hope. I mean, I know Johnny's going to look for Miguel, so that's going to be a big part of his story. So I don't know if everyone's going to be separated next season, like Expanse season 5 was, or Game of Thrones season 5. But I just hope that Johnny gets Miguel back. Somehow Kreese is able to get out of his situation, and maybe Johnny or someone else speaks up for him. I don't know who would though. But I hope next season leads further to Kreese being redeemed to the viewer, at least. I hope to see Cobra Kai grow and become bigger villains than they currently are. Maybe every school in LA now has a bullying problem because of all the Cobra Kai. Because I think the Cobra Kai franchise is going to expand quite a bit after this season.
Yes,
with obviously Terry Silver's funds and the fact that they won the All Valley. So we're going to see.
The fact that they announced it at the tournament that there are going to be more franchises opening up.
Yeah. So there's the stakes are going to get higher. I don't know how they would. They said, if we win, then Miyagi-Do they have to close, and so is Eagle Fang. I don't know how that would be enforced if there was another handshake deal. Maybe I don't know. I honestly don't know. I just hope that they manage to. Daniel manages to branch out further with Miyagi-Do, get more. They were probably going to have to get more and more people involved. Maybe Chosen starts his own version of Miyagi-Do and has his own group of students. So it's like there's more and more groups, there's more and more teams building up and stuff. Yeah, it seems like a lot of shifting. Like you had Hawk was originally Cobra Kai, then he was Cobra Kai, and then he was with Johnny briefly, and then now he's with then he was doing Miyagi-Do and stuff. So it was interesting. It's interesting seeing where everyone shifts positions. All the characters shift positions every season. So
yeah, even Daniel says he can't honor an agreement made with snakes. So Chosen, being a factor in season 5, he can say that Miyagi-Do is his do. It's his school of teaching, and he didn't agree to the terms that Daniel agreed to. Therefore, everything's null and void.
Right.
That's where I would go if I was writing it.
I'm wondering if, Chosen's was not a bad guy, but I'm wondering if we get to see some remnant of his villainy from Karate Kid Part 2, his ruthlessness. You insult his honor, he'll kill you. That's the Chosen I want to see next season.
We very well could. I mean, it's definitely setting up to be a very interesting season with multiple story threads that are obviously all going to come together at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And, getting back to what you're saying about Kreese, it'll be interesting to see where he factors into everything. Who does he side with after he gets out of prison? If he gets out of prison.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, like I said, I want to see Robbie and Johnny maybe in the second half of the season. I want to see them fight together.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And I'm just going to bring up a few images I was able to find from season 4. And if you want to talk about them, you can talk about them, or we could just keep them on the screen and let the audience look at it. So here we go. So, of course, the leader of the debate team and one of the new recruits for Eagle Fang. So I'm sure we're going to see a lot more development as far as her character is concerned. And, there was something that was pretty much laid to the table and pretty much foreshadowed that in the next year, she's going to end up beating whoever her opponent is at the All Valley tournament.
Yeah, I liked her. I liked her quite a bit. I hope they do more with her. I don't know when they're going to do another All Valley tournament because the first one was in season 1, and then we didn't get another one till this season. So I'm assuming they might have another All Valley tournament at the very end of the show. I think that's when the next one's going to be. So maybe if there's a season 7 or a season 6, perhaps.
Yeah, and I really did like this moment between Johnny and Daniel, especially when they do team up at the end to combine their knowledge and wisdom as Sam's fighting with Nichols. And
oh yeah, I love that too. It was a great it was a great path towards a sort of a reconciliation between these two.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that keeps the show going is their constant bickering and their constant there's always there's a big difference in opinion, difference of worldviews in their eyes.
Yeah,
and that always gets in the way of there being a total reconciliation. That's kind of what keeps the show going.
It definitely does, and that's what you need. And then, of course, here's Terrence Silver.
Yeah, and he looks just with the white hair. He just looks exactly the way he looks, almost just like we did in part 3.
Mm-hmm.
Conniving, evil, no sympathy, no sympathy whatsoever. He's an evil guy.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious if there is going to be a redemption for him. If there is, I'd be very interested to find out what that is, because I can't think of one.
And sorry if I butcher your name, but Chaos 13-212 says, I like the season, but so many things should and shouldn't have happened, in my opinion.
I'd love to see you type in the chat and elaborate on what you liked and what you think should and shouldn't have happened. I'm very interested to know.
Because we're not going to judge you. We're not here to judge you, tell you you're wrong, tell you you're right. We want to hear your thoughts and your views. We want to see
we're not Hollywood
views in the chat. No. We're not going to read about it.
We're not going to call you this, and we're not going to call you that, or a hater or something. everybody has their opinion. Everybody has their views, and it's
Mhm.
I'm very interested to hear everybody's point of views.
Yeah, because Nerd and I don't always agree on things, but we're here together on this stream. And of course, here's one of my favorite moments.
He spits in
The
his hand.
handshake deal.
Yep. And he's like, is this beneath you? And he's like, yes, this is beneath me. Or he was talking about like the food, the type of food he eats, like the Slim Jims and stuff. I was like, is that stuff beneath me? He's like, yeah, it's beneath me.
Well, that was also funny. You see Johnny at his apartment at one point, and he's cooking himself dinner. It's manwich and beef jerky, and you hear him say, "It's not manly enough."
And he puts more beef jerky in it. Yep, I saw that.
Yeah. Johnny's. I've said it in the beginning of the stream, and I'll say it again. Johnny's become one of my favorite characters.
Oh yeah, same here. I mean, he's the glue that's keeping me. I mean, I like Daniel too. I mean, he's the hero. Daniel's the good guy. He's the hero of the Karate Kid movies. But I am most invested in Johnny. So like, if Johnny goes in a direction that I don't like, I don't know if I'm going to want to keep watching Cobra Kai. To be perfectly honest, I mean, because I'm invested in him. He's that first episode, which is all about him, is the reason why I kept watching it.
And that's the thing. As an executive producer, William Zepka could have Johnny go in any direction. Same with Ralph Macchio, as far as Daniel's concerned.
Yeah. But I just like, besides Johnny's story, just how respectful they were to the older Karate Kid films, especially Mr. Miyagi. Like that scene where he visits his grave in season 1. You have the little bonsai tree right next to it. Was one of the most moving things I ever saw. I'm like, how can you not like this show?
Yeah.
Yep, there she is. There's Aisha.
Yep.
I hope I do want her to come back. I want her to come back. I want to see her. I want to see more of her. I want them to develop her character more.
Yeah. She has a likable character. That's the thing. When you first meet the character, you do start to like her. And it's not one of those things where they introduce this character and they're trying to force this character on you. They're trying to force you to like her. She's not a Mikey Spock.
No. And the world doesn't revolve around her, but we care about, like, we see her go through things that a lot of us can relate to. She was humiliated. They call her a pig, they called her a pig while she was at the Halloween party eating the food. And, we felt, I mean, a lot of us have been under that, have been in that position and stuff.
Yep.
So we feel for her. And when she gives that girl a front wedgie, which is like, ooh, I saw that. I was like, oh, like I'm a dude, and I can't do that to front wedgie on a girl. I'm like, oh, yeah.
That was my reaction.
Yes.
And of course, I thought this was hilarious right here.
Oh, the crane kick. He taught. That's funny is he taught the crane kick to Miguel, and we see him use it in the first tournament in season 1. Mm-hmm. Interesting enough. And they're like, I think they're like, he stole your move. And Daniel got a little offended for that. But yeah, hey, I mean, you learn from your mistakes. I mean, Johnny learned from his. It was that crane kick that he lost to in the first film.
Mm-hmm.
Such an epic. I love the music. I love the music and everything that built up to that crane kick at the end of the first movie. What's his name? I can't think of the composer's name.
I can go back to it.
What's his name? That I love that track that builds up to that thing, builds up to the crane kick.
And this will definitely show my age. I don't care, but I do love the fact that they include Eddie's rock tracks into it. It's the soundtrack to my childhood.
Yeah. Yeah. Bill Conti. Bill Conti's the composer.
Still around?
Oh, yeah. Bill, what do you call it? Yeah, they're playing everything. Oh, music. Daniel and Johnny are two sides of a very different musical taste, and they talk about this in this season. I was thinking about this, and they actually they talk about it. So when we think Johnny, we think hard rock, we think metal. You know, you think your D. Snyder's, your Foreigner, your Twisted Sister, Judas Priest, and Daniel. You think Peter Cetera. And I like what Johnny says, like Peter Cetera is the opposite of badass. Like who's Chicago? like who's Chicago? The famous Peter Cetera song in part 2, "Glory of Love." Yeah, it was funny here. It's very funny hearing them say that in the show. My buddy Marty, who I've had on my channel. He hates 80s music. He hates that poppy 80s ballads and stuff. So he says Peter Cetera ruined Chicago after Terry Kath died. Terry Kath was the original guitarist. So you hear those awesome guitar solos in early Chicago. That was Terry Kath, but he played with a gun and he shot himself to death because he didn't think it was loaded. It was a tragedy. And then Chicago went poppy right after that. It lost its little bluesy element that made it one of the best rock bands of all time, and became more of a poppy 80s ballad type of band. So I still like that poppy 80s. I like "You're My Inspiration," and "It's Hard to Say I'm Sorry," and of course, Peter Cetera's, solo hit, "Glory of Love." I mean, that's iconic to me. I've watched part 2 more than I've seen any other Karate Kid film, so I know that song pretty well. So,
and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it was cool hearing them talking, doing the musical equipment. So Daniel's more of the soft rock type of guy, and Johnny's more the hard rock metal type of guy. 80s rock, and I like 80s. I mean, I don't think 80s is the best decade for music. I think that's the 70s. But 80s is up there. And then after that, just falls. 90s. After the 90s, it just completely gets flat. The music industry is forgettable.
In my opinion, before anybody reads about it on Twitter or any other social media platform, music today all sounds the same.
Yeah, it's very predictable and it's just boring.
Yeah.
Unless there's indie bands that are out there that like to play come up with decent tunes.
Because whether you like it or not, movies and TV shows that use music from the decade, you can tell what decade that movie and TV show was made when they use those music tracks just by the sound of that music alone. Nowadays, you can't distinguish it from one piece of music to another.
Yeah,
at least I can't.
I mean, if you watch Ghostbusters 1 and 2, that's from the 1980s. I mean, you have the classic, Ray Parker Jr., the main Ghostbusters theme. And I've been listening a lot lately myself, Ghostbusters 2 soundtrack. I love Bobby Brown's Ghostbusters 2 theme. And of course, there was also the Glenn Fry theme when the ghosts are terrorizing Manhattan in part 2. So to me, a Ghostbusters movie has to have an 80s soundtrack, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because that's what so if they make another Ghostbusters in New York, I want to hear 80s sounding music personally. 80s songs, awesome, that 80s, a little bit of that 80s funk, that 80s synth pop, that's what I want to hear. Yeah. That's what I expect. And if they make another, traditional Manhattan setting Ghostbusters with people, people fighting ghosts in the big city.
And that's what Afterlife teased.
Yeah.
That the settings could be back in New York.
You can't really, I don't see how you can have a Ghostbusters movie anywhere else, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. And of course, it's got to be irreverent as hell.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But one of my other favorite scenes from the season of Cobra Kai was the fact that Daniel had the students try to catch the koi fish. And it wasn't until Miguel and the other students actually got into the pond and started following the motion and the koi fish that they actually understood and grasped the lesson fully.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
I thought they were just going to do something similar to like noodling and stuff, but no, they actually did something different. So I was like, oh, I didn't see that coming, to be honest.
No. Again, you got to give credit to the writing.
Yeah.
And of course, one of the things I enjoyed about the season is, when Dimitri's sparring with Johnny and Dimitri kicks Johnny in the nose, and then the next scene you see, a patio cushion taped to Dimitri, and
and then they're practicing on him. They're practicing on him. Yeah, that was hilarious. But I'm happy that Dimitri was able to grow. Like he was able to get to the quarterfinals in the tournament. And I was like, wow, you would not have thought that back in season 1 because he wasn't even really in. Like he tried to join, and then of course because he likes to talk a lot and say stuff that he just kind of he got. I think Kreese punched him in the face.
Yeah.
Season 2. That was season 2. So, I mean, be honest, I love that, and I want to see more. I want to see a lot. They use a lot of the same actors or a lot of the same stand-ins from the other seasons. I'd like to see the other students have a bit of a role too. I want to see everyone have a moment to shine. I want to see all the characters. I want them to have defined, give them names if they don't have names. Like there were some characters that you've never seen them talk. Like they're just kind of standing there and stuff. I want to see them talk. I want them to have names, and give them a little bit of development and find out who they are and what they want and why they decided to join. And that's how I always felt. That's the one issue I had with the original Star Trek series. I wanted to see more characters, have a voice, and have dialogue and have a little bit more development. Which I think because Continues wasn't under that whole you have to pay them every time they talk and stuff. They were able to do that well, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and we saw it in Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager and Enterprise, where not every story focused on the captain.
Exactly, or Michael Burnham. Like Michael Burnham is the center. Big reason why people don't like Discovery. Michael Burnham's the center of the entire plot. Like I'm just like, why do we keep seeing her? Like, go away.
And don't get me wrong, Johnny and Daniel are still the centerpieces to the story, but they're not the whole focus of the story. They do branch out to the other characters. We do learn to dislike the other characters that we've been introduced to.
To me, this is the perfect, passing of the torch,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is, like I said, this was something that Star Wars should have did, and they didn't do that because they wanted to subvert expectations.
Well, it just goes to show that you try to subvert expectations and your product turns to shit.
Yeah, especially especially if the only way to subvert it is if the viewer can buy it and stuff, and if it's something that's clever, like Nerdrotic always talks about the Red Wedding subverting expectations, and it was done brilliantly, and I totally agree with that because it was built up, it was set up. I mean, it still has to be believable, and there has to be like a payoff. It can't just come out of left field and you expect the viewer to buy it and like it and stuff. It doesn't quite work that way.
Well, it's like building a house. You don't start out with a fully built house. You have to start with the foundation and build upon that foundation.
Yeah, or it'll crumble.
And that's what they've done in Cobra Kai. They've started to build upon the foundation that was already there. But they're not trying to tear down what was built on that foundation before. No, they're trying to add to it. Yeah. And be respectful to that source material. Be respectful to the creator. And not diss the creator and basically have the name of the creator shoveling, remnants of a character that they killed off. And yes, I am referring to Discovery.
Oh, I didn't see that, but yeah, there's the
Yeah.
Gene, right? Gene
Yes.
Gene
Yes.
Roddenberry.
Yes.
Like people are saying that this would have met Gene's vision. Heck, Gene did not like Star Trek 2. Like Gene had his own particular vision. Like Wrath of Khan did not fit that vision. That's why he wasn't involved with Wrath of Khan. They kind of shut him out on that one. They wanted to make something a little more engaging. And Gene was always big on, the exploration, going on in the universe,
Mm-hmm.
or learning about some new creature, new consciousness, new way of life and stuff, which motion picture did in a very interesting way.
Yeah. Because what I was thinking of, and I'm gonna say it right here, if you want to understand Gene Roddenberry's vision for Star Trek, watch season 1 of the original series, watch the motion picture, and watch the first 2 seasons of Next Generation. That's
Yeah.
Gene Roddenberry's vision right there.
Yeah. And his vision, I mean, I love season 1 of the original series, but like early TNG, not the best. It really doesn't get good until season 3, in my opinion.
No, I'm with you there. It was yesterday's Enterprise that got me hooked on Next Generation. Before that, I would watch it, but I wasn't really hooked into it.
And then Best of Both Worlds was the season finale of season 3. I mean, like a lot of people said, you as Patrick Stewart said, you ruined my summer. If you've ever heard that interview.
Yeah, I have.
When a lot of people reacted to that part, the end of part 1 and stuff. That was a great part. Part 1 was the better part of the 2-parter. Part 2 was kind of a letdown. I mean, it was still good, but it wasn't as good.
It just goes to show that sometimes when you try to do a follow-up or continuation to a story, sometimes the first part is the only part that you really need. I mean, how many movies have we seen where we've gotten the first movie and then its subsequent sequel or sequels don't live up to what the first one delivered?
Yeah, the original Planet of the Apes movies.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good example. I don't know how you feel about Back to the Future. I love all 3.
I love all 3.
But if you look at the reviews, the parts 2 and 3 are not as well received as the first one.
I love all 3 movies, but as far as my ranking for the movies, it's the original, then it's part 3, then it's part 2.
Really? Part 2 is lower than part 3? Really? Interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's because of my mom. I started getting into westerns at that time.
I see. So, that's actually part 3 is actually the very first western I've ever seen.
Yeah.
To be honest. So yeah, so seeing Buford Tannen was scary. Like, why is he so dark? Like his face and stuff. Like he's really like dark skinned and everything. Like they put like all that. Well, I always wondered about that.
I always looked at it like this. The reason why he's so dark is because he's out there in the elements constantly, and he rarely bathes. So he's got all that dirt and soot from coal mines and.
Oh, okay, I see.
That's how I've always looked at it.
You're Mad Dog Tannen. Nobody calls me Mad Dog.
Mad Dog? I hate that name.
Yeah, that's. I like how everybody reacted once he said that. Everybody just like, oh, time to leave. Time to leave.
And I love Thomas Wilson, especially in that movie. You could tell he was having a ball with that movie.
He wasn't playing Biff. He wasn't playing Griff. He was playing a totally different character.
Mm-hmm.
He was playing. What if Biff lived in the? What if Biff lived in the Old West? What would he be like? He'd be killing people.
Yeah.
He's shooting them dead.
I wish you could have been a part of the Pop Talk stream that the Smoking Patriot and I had discussing each and every movie. Man, that would have been fun, brother.
Well, I mean, I was on. I mean, I listened. I was listening in the chat.
I know you did. I know. But I would love to have had you on the panel.
I would have to rewatch them. I mean, there's a lot. Those movies. There's a lot to those movies. I just have to rewatch and try to remember and stuff. So I do eventually want to do videos on those because that's one of the earliest things I've seen too. Before I've ever seen Star Wars, and the first trilogy I remember knowing about was that one. That and Indiana Jones were my earliest trilogies that I've seen. That I knew even as a little kid, as a young 5-6-year-old, I knew those were trilogies. So.
I mean, for me, Back to the Future, and I'm talking about the trilogy, that was the first trilogy I actually gave a damn about. You know, I'd seen, Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, but it wasn't until I, got into my teenage years that I actually started to care about those movies more than I did before.
Right, yeah.
Because, at the time Back to the Future came out, I was 7 years old. I was just starting to get into Star Trek. I'd seen, Karate Kid, so obviously I liked Karate Kid, but, having just gotten into Star Trek, and then the first Back to the Future comes out, and loving that movie, loving it to where I believe my mom took me to see it 3 times. Because I was loving it so much. And then, of course, it comes out on video, and I would rent it over and over and over and over to the point where my mom and dad would say, "You're renting Back to the Future again?" Yeah, that's how much I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah, we owned as long as I remember, we owned Back to the Future on VHS. So I used to watch that over and over again. And I think when we went to Universal Studios, I was like a little kid in like 91 or 92, I believe. We bought both of those movies when we came off the Back to the Future ride. Remember that ride? Remember Back to the Future ride at Universal? Yeah. So I got out of there, and they were selling that. They sold those. They were selling Ghostbusters. So I got both parts 2 and part 3, and we've got Ghostbusters 2 at Universal Studios. And I asked for the first Ghostbusters, and my parents thought we owned it for some reason. Like they thought that they recorded on TV and stuff. But I never found it, so we never really owned it. So it wasn't until I got it on DVD that I finally owned Ghostbusters 1. But yeah, that's how I used to watch those all the time. Like whenever I had a chance to go into the living room when my dad and my mom weren't watching TV, I would just put the tape on and just watch it.
Yeah, because you mentioned Universal Studios and Back to the Future: The Ride. My parents and sister and I, we went to Universal Studios Hollywood in the summer of '92. So somewhere in the photo albums is a picture of me with Doc Brown, at least the actor that was playing Doc Brown at Universal Studios. But one of the last things that we did for our night at Universal Studios was Back to the Future: The Ride. My dad and I went on it, and we're in the queue, and of course the video is playing. Christopher Lloyd as Doc, and I'm soaking it all in. Being a Back to the Future nut like I am, it's like whenever I see the Karate Kid on TV, of course I'm going to stop and I'm going to watch it, even if there was something else that I wanted to watch.
I'll be honest. When I was on that ride, maybe because I was really young, I think I was 6 or 7. I thought it was real. I thought we really went back in time. I literally thought we went back in time. We went back in time. We were in a volcano. There was a T-Rex involved. I was scared. I'll be honest. I was scared. I thought that the whole thing was real. So yeah. So now I revealed to the world that I thought that's why I was too scared to go on the King Kong and the Jaws rides. My parents wanted to go on. I was like, no, I don't want to do it. And I freaked out about it. So, because I thought these rides were real. I thought these rides were real.
I can understand where you're coming from, especially at that age. But having been on the studio tram tour, it was well worth it.
I agree.
It was a lot of fun.
Thinking back to it, I did enjoy it. I miss it. It's too bad it's gone.
Yeah. And even the tram tour that they have now, it's not the same because it's all video screens.
Yeah.
From what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
But, getting back to our main topic, Cobra Kai Season 4, if I'm going to rate this season, I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. That's how much I enjoyed it.
For me, I guess I would be roughly in that ballpark. I would say 4.5 out of 5. I
Okay.
liked it. I liked it for the most part. I mean, I wouldn't say it was perfect, but it was one of the, it's probably it's tied with season 1 as my favorite season so
Definitely.
far. And I thought it was great, and I can't wait. I can't wait for the next one. Alan Copeland
And
says 10 out of 10.
yes, I can agree with that. If that's his rating scale, I can definitely go with that.
Yeah, and Alan Copeland is wise beyond his years.
Yes, he is.
We just need to get him. We need to get him a mic so he can come and join us on stream.
Yeah, I keep telling him every time he pops by one of my streams that I'd love to have him on one of these days.
Yeah, same
By the
same
way,
here.
Alan, how's that new computer working for you, brother? Because one of these days you do need to come on a panel with Nerd and I and whoever our guest happens to be. And
Well, I mean, I'm always looking for special guest stars for my new series, Nerdporeal Sci-Fi Chats. Which I hope to continue on Thursday.
yes, and while we're on that subject, are we going to continue with the Orville?
Heck yeah, we're gonna cover. So I want to do 2 more streams covering Orville season 2.
All right.
So the next one will be episode 6, 7, 8, and 9. So everything up to Identity Part 2, and then the rest of the season after that. And then after that, I have no idea. I'll probably think of some random TNG or DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, maybe some Babylon 5 or some Expanse or whatever other shows, random episodes we can just talk about, like maybe 2 episodes. I'm thinking Chain of Command might be my first.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be a great one to talk about. There's so many to talk about, though. I have to make up my mind. I know Spock wants to talk Future's End from Voyager, so maybe I'll take up that mantle. So we'll see. I have to make up my mind.
You tried to find a mic last week at Walmart. Have you checked Amazon? I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about Amazon, but that is where I've been able to find some good microphones and a sound card that I use when I'm using Streamlabs OBS. I don't use it as much as I should, but then I didn't pay that much for it either. But yeah, I mean, if you're a sci-fi, talk show that you're starting, and of course me with Pop Talk, I like to talk about any subject matter that draws my attention. And yes, I am going to still continue to talk about what's going on in Hollywood and the articles that pique my interest, might pique your interest as an audience member. But that's still going to happen on this channel, and I plan to do Pop Talk on Wednesday. I just don't know what time. It seems like 9:00 is a good time right now, but we'll see.
Yeah, that's 8:00 my time, so that'd be perfect.
All right, so you are getting some help. That's good to know, Alan. And yeah, and before we leave, we do want to say tune in on the Star Wars Guys channel Tuesday night at 9:00 as we are diving into Star Trek The Next Generation Season 1.
That reminds me, I gotta watch it now.
I mean, I have my mixed feelings when it comes to Season 1 and Season 2. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to pretend that I enjoy watching each and every episode. There are a couple episodes I like from Season 1 and a couple of episodes I like from Season 2. But when it comes to those 2 seasons overall, it's like, I'll do it for the program.
Code of Honor, greatest episode ever of TNG. Greatest Star Trek episode of all time. Code of Honor.
Yes.
You know which episode that is.
Mm-hmm. I love that episode.
Same with Justice. Great episode. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I love that one. The one with the 80s, the one with the 80s, the women, the matriarchy, and and they all have the 80s hair and stuff. And then
Mm-hmm.
the dude that they're after, who is an anarchist, also has 80s hair, looks like a rock star. I'm like, come on, how can you not like those episodes?
I mean,
So compelling,
those episodes
so brave.
are quintessential 80s. Look at how everything's shot. Look at the lighting of the set in season 1 and season 2, and then look how they changed the lighting going forward.
And the synthesized music.
Yeah.
There you go. The mood. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll have to catch up.
All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of Pacific414 episode review. Brian, thank you for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for giving me the chance to speak my mind about Cobra Kai. I mean, just watching it, I kind of have to open my mouth and say stuff.
Not a problem. I want to have a platform here where no matter who my guest is, they can say what they want to say, and I'm not going to restrict them. So I also want to thank Alan Copeland for stopping by. I want to thank Star Wars Theology for stopping by. Woolis, thank you for stopping by. And of course, Godzillionaire, thank you for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Of
Rich
course,
Kaiju.
Jake D. Yes, I'm jealous. Not really. Yeah. Let's see. Of course, games, movies, and Comics Are Us. At least he's not Games Mickey and Comics Are Us now.
Yeah, every time I see his channel, it's a different name.
He told me that he lost a bet, so he fulfilled his end of the bargain, and that's a good man right there. And let's see.
The one and only Spock.
Yes. Spock's Friday nights. Thank you, Spock. It was agreeable to see you. Let's see. Scroll down. I don't want to miss anybody. And of course, we had Chaos 13212. Thank you very much.
And there was Dr. Derpy.
Yes, Dr. Derpy as well.
There is also the bot. We can also the bot Harry Potter.
Yes, the bots. By the way, how have you been doing as far as those bots showing up on your streams?
I just have my mods basically just mute them basically.
All right.
No bots. No, we don't serve their kind here. We don't serve their kind here. We don't serve bots.
They have to stay outside.
We have to stay outside. We don't want them here.
Yep. So again, brother, thank you for joining me for this live stream. Really appreciate it. Look forward to talking about Next Generation, the first 5 episodes on Tuesday. Anything you want to plug while you're here before you go?
Oh, I mean, I made a layman's guide to Cobra Kai. So it's basically, it's a short little video talking the background of Cobra Kai. So I touch upon the Karate Kid films a little bit. The characters of mainly the characters of Johnny and Daniel. And it kind of goes a little bit into like what to expect, like the type of arcs that you should expect to see in Cobra Kai. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out. I had a nice little interesting little opening jingle where I basically took the audio of what Kreese says in Karate Kid. He's like, "I can't hear you, sir. Strike hard, strike first, no mercy, sir." So I used that as my opening jingle. Instead of thinking of a musical theme, I came up with that. So, but yeah, check that out if you haven't. And I do video game streams. I've done lots of different videos. I've done Christmas videos, and if you're interested in what I'm doing next, watch my Nerdporeal Direct. That will tell you what I have mapped out for the first quarter of 2022. Because like Nintendo, I like to think ahead.
Very nice. And I have included the link to your Cobra Kai video in the stream. So anyone who watches this after the fact, I'll also put it down in the description below. Watch this video. It's worth watching. Brian puts a lot of hard work into his videos, and he deserves every view he gets, every subscriber he gets. And I'm glad to call him a friend.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, brother. I mean it. So with that being said, thank you all so very much for tuning in tonight. Greatly appreciate it. I will see you Tuesday if you stop by the Star Wars Book Guys channel, or Wednesday when I do Pop Talk. Either way, I'll see you.
Have a good one.
Take care, everyone.